Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Power of You. This is New Vang here, and I am so excited and just feel so good to be back on the podcast. It has been a while since I got back on here and recorded something because life has just been happening. So I am recording this the day after the full moon, and well, a few hours, like I think it's about, by this point, probably 12 hours after the full moon. And I believe the full moon is in Aries. So I'm not really too well versed in astrology. I'm more of a human design girl, but I do know that sometimes, or most of the times, I am affected by the energies of the moon. And let me tell you, let me share with you, this past month has been a roller coaster of emotions for me. Like 3 weeks ago, when we had the new moon, I had a lot of emotions coming up for me and a lot of old limiting beliefs that came up that was triggered when I was in a conversation with my fiance, and we actually had a really big blow up and an argument, and then a debate, and then conversations after that. And I do want to touch upon that today because the conversation around that was very enlightening for me, and I'm sure it will be enlightening for at least one of you out there. So I'm definitely going to share that too. And then also then the full moon, which just passed, um, also brought up a lot of energies within me, and it brought up a lot of wound, not a lot, brought up one core wound of mine for me to process as well, or to process on a deeper level. So today's episode is going to be about those two things that I've had to process in the past 3 weeks and how I navigated it and what I learned from each of those two. So I am currently walking around my lake again, and just a quick life update. My fiance and I are still looking for a place to move out into, and so while I am still here, I am trying to enjoy the most of this lake and yeah, just really be present here, because I know that once we find that new place, we're going to be moving back to Sacramento area, and that will mean I will not be walking around this lake every day like I do now. So I know I will miss it, but I am so ready for the next phase of my life and phase of me just developing my business and creating that life with my fiance. So I'm excited for that. So if I'm walking around the lake, and if I sound like I'm out of breath, it's probably because I'm out of breath, because I don't know if you've ever done it before, but trying to walk and talk and breathe at the same time can be a challenge. So please bear with me. Yeah, so I want to start with 3 weeks ago, the new moon. It was around the new moon. It was like a week before my period, and usually, depending on what's going on in my life, I do get pretty sensitive and emotional around this time and more vulnerable. And my fiance knows that too. And we've been having a lot of good times, and we've been able to navigate a lot of our hiccups and a lot of our misunderstandings. And there's just this one hiccup that happened where we were in a conversation, and it was around money. And I've always struggled in the past a lot with my relationship with money. I have anxious attachment with money. I am a huge saver, and I just save and save and save, even though I know that I'm well provided for, that I have a lot of extra money saved up. in savings and in for my future in my retirement. And so when you look at the paperwork, the data, right? It looks like I'm doing completely fine. Like there is no reason why I should be anxious all the time, but I am. And so that's a little bit of my background in terms of like, my relationship with money. And so I've been working diligently on that, on and off for the past, 3 years. And I've gotten to a point where I'm not working right now at a traditional job. I'm just working on my business, my coaching business, and rebuilding that from a place of more alignment and more of my truth and what I want to bring into this world. So I'm taking that on. But yeah, I have not been making my own income consistently for, you could say, the past 4 years. And I've had to learn to be okay with that. I've had to learn to not feel guilty for allowing my partner to provide for me and like not making that mean anything about my value and my worth. And so, with that being said, we had a conversation. It was like in the car, we were talking and we were planning our wedding, right? And I was telling him that I did not want to feel constricted when I'm planning my wedding, because if I feel constricted and if I think too much about the money, then I would not want to do anything, and my wedding would just be a wedding that was created around a really strict budget, and it wouldn't feel good to me. And I am not about doing things that don't feel good for me. So I I so the one word that he used that triggered me was, let me see. Yes, it was excuse me. The word that he used that triggered me was that we will always be financially smart. And I know some of you may think like, well, that's not a bad thing. But coming from a background of growing up poor and always worrying about money and being scarce, and finally, as an adult, I want to move away from that kind of thinking and move away from that kind of energy. And for my partner to say like, oh, we're always going to be financially smart, it triggered me, because it triggered the child within me, or the part of me that wants to be able to spend, however she wants to, like to spend luxuriously. And so I told him, like, is it okay? Do we have to always 100% of the time be financially smart? Why can't I be allowed some grace to not be financially smart for 1% of the time? Like, is that too much to ask? And so I got really passionate and very heated in the moment, because in my brain, in my mindset, what was going on was that he was telling me that I can't spend however I want. Like, we have to be very strict with our money. And you know, my personality and just my being, I don't like to be constricted and restricted. So I kind of rebelled and I said, no, like, I want to be able to spend luxuriously. And mind you, we have to define what luxury means to each of us, right? But in the moment, we didn't do that. So my fiance thought I was talking about luxury in terms of like, oh, $1 million homes, $1 million cars, like buying a yacht. That was what came to his mind. But to me, in hindsight, and I also actually did say it in the moment, like it just came to me that being able to be luxurious with my money, I want to spend luxuriously, is very basic and simple. A luxury experience is just every dollar that is spent free of guilt. So that was my definition of luxury, is being able to spend without guilt. And that just came out of me, like subconsciously. And I was totally aware of it. I was like, wow, that is so like my boyfriend says, my fiance says, that is so profound, right? Like it's a concept. It's like it's the principle. It's not like, oh, luxury means I can spend this much amount, this much money on this, right? None of that. Luxury to me is just being able to spend from a place of abundance and ease and joy instead of spending from a place of lack, scarcity, and guilt. So that was very powerful for me. And even though that conversation was so heated, I was so upset, I was so triggered, all the emotions came out, and it took me a while to recover. But afterwards, I was able to see and reflect and realize, like, wow, like, I have felt, well, I have allowed myself to feel so restricted around money. And even though my fiance was providing for me and encouraging me to spend, I restrict myself. And so I had to do a lot of work and a lot of reflecting and journaling and actually creating a new money date routine for me weekly to actually write a letter to myself, write a letter to money to mend the relationship that I have with money. And so for some of you, if you don't see, and if it's weird for you to hear me talk about money in terms of a relationship, well, I encourage you to be open to the idea of thinking about it in that way, because we have relationships with people, obviously, and we also have a relationship with ourselves, but we also have a relationship with money, with how we spend it, how we feel about it. So that's where that is coming from. But I'm not going to go into that, but I just wanted to give you a little, a little blurb about that. So yeah, I think the biggest thing that I learned from that situation with my fiance um, and during that new moon is that, wow, like I really want to have and really start taking action on this mindset of mine and this physiological reaction to money and actually spending money. And so there's only so much you can do when you um hello there's only so much you can do when you learn and when you know and you become aware. But where it really matters and where I feel like I am right now is I am in a place where I need to implement. I need to start actually taking action differently. And so that is why I've created a spending log, a spending tracker, so that I can actually, once a week when I do my money dates, I actually look at my bank accounts, my credit card statements, and log down the money amount that I have been spending on. And I have like a budget for myself every month that I have to spend this much at the end of the month. And that forces me to start taking action, to start utilizing the muscles to create that new change in my system, to spend money and to spend money on things that are luxurious to me. So what, like for me right now, it's like going to cafes and being able to try different drinks and being able to be in nice environments. That's very luxurious to me. So, and of course, doing that from a place of like abundance, like, oh, I have all this money to be able to spend for this experience. Like, that's very luxurious. And so I'm actually like, I have implemented that, uh, event or that words. I've implemented that into my routine so that every Tuesday I sit down and I write a letter to myself. I do some EFT tapping or a grounding meditation or a money meditation, and then I look at my statements and I take a look, and so that by the end of the month I would have spent the amount that I intended to spend. And yeah, I really hope and I really believe that, like, as I do this more, my relationship with spending money will change and I will start feeling, more abundant with it instead of just hogging and saving up all the money. So that is the first lesson. I know it's been 14 minutes, But that is the first lesson, and I think it's such a big lesson for me that's going to be so helpful to my growth and my relationship with money. So that is the first lesson and how I worked through that. And then the second one was just very recently, and I want to share it as well, not only for myself, but for you as well, the listener, because as I've said in the past, I see that sharing my stories, my lessons, what I've learned is helpful for people who might be going through the same thing. And if you're not going through the same thing, then maybe someone you know is. And it's just so crucial to also be able to process and share all these things with people, because I don't know, the universe, God, Mother Nature has just created me to be a vessel of like, oh, life happens to me. I learn, I embody, I share. And that's kind of like the cycle that I see that goes on in my life. So here we go into the second lesson, the second, I don't like to call it like argument, but like I need to find I want to find a better name for it. But yes, the second situation with my fiance, and of course, it's with my dear fiance. He has been such a catalyst in my growth, and he's just been so loving and patient and understanding and supportive of me and learning all of this with me and going along for the emotional roller coaster. So just wanted to give him a shout out. But yes, so recently we had another situation where I felt, okay, I was like all gung ho about it, but now I'm like, wait, what actually happened? So sometimes this happens. This is kind of like a tangent, but when you actually try to go back to recap what happened, when you actually don't remember the details, for me, that's a tall tale sign that the details didn't really matter. It was that it wasn't just that specific situation that triggered you, that it is an old reoccurring pattern. And that's why you don't remember exactly the details, because it's actually just the underlying pattern that has always happened. And so the details didn't really matter. But you just know that it was very important because it has been a theme in your life. So hopefully that makes sense. And I am just like blanking out, like exactly what the detail was. But I guess that's divinely fine, because maybe I'm not supposed to recount the details and share the details with you all. So I'm just going to share the theme. And the theme was that something happened and it triggered within me the belief that what I have to say doesn't matter. What I have that my experience doesn't matter. And it's a very old core wound from when I was a child, because my parents, I have 7 siblings, there's 8 of us. We're immigrants. We grew up very poor, on welfare and everything. And so, as you can imagine, my parents were busy. Whether if it's not working, then it's busy taking care of my other siblings. And I'm the third oldest, so I have 5 younger ones. And so that caused um, a lot of my inner child, feeling unseen, unheard, misunderstood, not important, like all those things, feeling neglected. And so now as the adult version of myself, whenever someone very close to me doesn't understand or doesn't listen to me, it triggers within me that inner child that like craves for that attention, craves for that validation of her experience, of her emotions, of her hurt. And so that was what happened. I got triggered, and that little child came out. And then my protector self also came out, because my protector self is like, well, no one's gonna validate you and be here to keep you safe, so I will. And so when my protector self comes out, she is mean. She is mean, she is tough, and she is very badass. But yes, she can be very mean. So she came out and she just protected me and just was not having it. And I struggled with that, because it's so interesting, because I'm in a place where I'm so aware of all this stuff that when it plays out, it's kind of like I step back and I see the picture, I see what's going on, and I see the hurt, I see the protector, I see the child, I see my higher self wanting to do better and wanting to be better. And it's so wild because sometimes when the emotions are so high and powerful and the hurt is so there's so much hurt, um it it takes over. And that was what happened. Like I couldn't hold in the hurt. I couldn't accept my fiance's repair attempt because I was so hurt. And it wasn't until the day after that I was able to be in my own space and have help and support from my mentor and the groups that I'm in, that I realized that that inner child came out. And there would have been nothing that my fiance could have said to me to help me feel better, because in that moment, my inner child didn't need my fiance's validation and acknowledgement. That inner child needed her parents' validation. And I was like, but that's not possible because you're having this debacle with your fiance, not your parents. And so it's during in that um in that realization that I, took my inner child self aside, and I really was able to hold her and allow her to express herself and tell her that I see her, and like just cry. Just let her cry, let her express herself, let her be angry and all the things. And when that did happen, oh, that's still working. When that did happen, I feel like a part of that hurt was kind of like softened. It softened a little bit, and like she felt hurt and not as hurt. And I feel like she no longer really demanded that from my fiance, which, you know, it, like, if you're able to see the picture that I'm painting, it's like because of my unhealed inner child that will always live within me, and she can be more healed, but she will always get triggered as a protection mechanism when I interact with other people who may trigger her. And when she comes out, it is my job now to be there for her and to soothe her, because she never had the parents that were able to do that for her. So, with all that being said, I went through a whole emotional roller coaster of figuring out how to navigate that. And also there were times and there were thoughts of, oh, I thought I got over this. I thought I healed this. I thought she was okay. I thought she was happier. And that's going to happen. And I've always heard my mentors and coaches say, like, you're going to deal with the same stuff over and over again. It would just be with a different situation, or it would just be a different time, or it would just be on a deeper level. And I am definitely experiencing one of those different levels. And so, yeah, I think it's just so important for that self-awareness and to really honor all parts of yourself, all versions of yourself, because I think at the end of the day, all those versions of you are there to support you and to help you. And sometimes I do get so frustrated at those parts of me that are just so mean. But at the end of the day, even though they're mean, they were created for your benefit, for your safety, right? For your survival. And so always having that compassion, coming back to that self-compassion is so important. So I just feel like I've gone through so much this past 3 weeks. I was about to say 3 months. You can tell how I'm feeling emotionally. And yeah, and sometimes when I'm going through these things, it is tough to show up online. It is tough to teach and, still consistently show up online. And sometimes I don't. I allow myself to be off. I've been off. I think the last video I posted was like probably 2 weeks ago or 3. And I've learned to be okay with that because I need to take care of myself first. and only then will I be able to take care of others. So I have gotten so much better at allowing myself to just like not care about what other people may think when I'm not showing up, because I'm taking care of myself, and when I'm ready and when I have lots to give, then I will be online. But if not, I will see you later. And we just gotta do that for ourselves. And I just trust that, you know, um, my business is gonna unfold the way it is meant to unfold, and I'll just follow these little crumbs, these urges, listen to my intuition, and all will be well. So I'm super happy to have shared this episode with you. I know this is a little bit of a longer one, and I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot or learned something. um, and I hope that these heartfelt shares with you land in some way, shape, or form, and that we get to know each other, that you get to know me on a deeper level, because I feel like I don't share like this on any other platform. And yeah, and I love just being able to talk and walk. So thank you for being with me during this time while I am just really processing and enjoying the nature around me. I hope you feel the energy as well. And yeah, so thank you for tuning into this episode of The Power of You. Remember, you are powerful, you are amazing, you are extremely, extremely capable, and so much more. So I really want to remind you of that. And yeah, thank you so much again. Do share this podcast with anybody who you feel like just going through some things, and just need to hear other people's life stories, just being authentic to yourself, um, and just want to empower themselves even more. So, with that being said, I will talk to you in the next episode. All right, bye.